Hello everyone, and welcome to another random bits and pieces segment from my brain. And today, sit a while, for we are playing some more Franchise Hockey Manager 6 as part of the Ottawa Senators. So we are sitting atop the Eastern Conference standings with a 33-point lead. That's pretty good. Unless there's a huge catastrophe happening, we are going to finish first. And the Buffalo Sabres are actually one of the teams that are quite likely to be our first round matchup if that's the case. And that's the team we are going to face first here in March. Prior to shooting the video, I've put everybody that I am not renewing their contract up on the trading block. We'll see if I get any offers that are interesting. There were no interesting players unless, yet again, I want to overpay for like Yerky Lume. He's 37 now and he's only a star and a half anymore, so that doesn't make much sense to me to trade for that. So we are going to be kind of staying put unless something falls on our lap. The trade deadline is on March 9th, so it's coming fast, and we'll see if we get anything. And we don't have any injuries right now. We're doing pretty good on that front. So let's begin. So we don't play for a couple days here, and it's going to start in Buffalo against the Sabres. Trent Hunter is available. I'm not going to pick him up. Tony Amonte has tallied 300 goals in his career with a goal against Montreal. And Eugene Melnick is so very happy with my work. I hope he is. We went 12-0-1 last month. We didn't get a single loss in February, so it's pretty good. Pretty impressive. Oh, Mark Savard is suspended. So Mark Savard now playing for Columbus. He's going to miss 4 games. Oh, there's been a trade between Toronto and Boston. So Toronto traded Frederick Modine and Lyle Odeline to the Bruins for David Moss and Jay Henderson. Huh. Yeah, unless David Moss develops and become the 3-star potential that he has, I do believe that Boston got the upper hand on that one. Frederick Modine right now is the superior player, even though he's not having a great season. Alright, so we are about to play against Buffalo. They are 31-30-4, which is good for 8th in the East. We are 4-0-1 against the Sabres this year, so we did get a 4-4 tie against them, but other than that, we had 4 wins. So let's see if we can continue our domination here. We're going to send Ryan Miller in net. They're going to go with Dominic Hasek. And we won 8-1. We outshot Buffalo 53-16. Sheldon Surrey was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals and 3 assists. Pretty good game. Alexei Yashin was the second star with a goal and 3 assists. And Joe Thornton, third star with a goal and 2 assists. Alright, so we open up the scoring in the first. Sheldon Surrey scored his 15th from Alexei Yashin and Patrick Eliash. Then Joe Thornton scored from Anton Volchenkov and Pavel Datsyuk. And Sheldon Surrey then scored his 2nd of the game from Anton Volchenkov and Alexei Yashin. It was 3-0 Sens after 1. Then in the second, Brian McCabe scored from Yashin and Alfredson, then Yashin from Sharon Surrey, and then Buffalo scored their lone goal. It was 5-1 Sens after 2. And then we scored 3 more times in the third period. Zdeno Chara scored from Sheldon Surrey and Chris Kelly. Then Pavel Datsyuk from Joe Thornton and Patrick Eliash. And finally, Mariano Osa from Joe Thornton and Sheldon Surrey. 8-1 the final score. So good trouncing to start the month is exactly what we needed. Right, so Kolarek, Gruden, Kudashov, and Anderson are all available. And I'm not going to pick any of them. A night to remember for Daniel Sedin. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against the Avalanche. Brent Sopol's suspension is over. He is back in the lineup in Vancouver. Zetterberg is not getting suspended in Detroit. That's good for them. Oh, and on top of that, he had a good game. He had a hat-trick against Calgary. Tony Amonte, after scoring his 300th goal, now has achieved 600 points with an assist against Florida. So it's a week of milestones for Tony Amonte. Chris Kunitz in Anaheim is suspended. He's going to miss 6 games. Alright, and the trade deadline is in just a few days. Keith Primo has played in his 1000th game in the NHL. Didn't get a point. Keith Primo is 32 years old, and he is a star-and-a-half player only anymore. Wow. Alrighty. So we are about to play the Flyers in Philadelphia. So Philadelphia is second in the East. They are 39-25-4. But we are 2-0 against Philadelphia this season. So let's see if we can continue on that streak there. Brian Miller is going to be in net for us. He's going to face Steve Shields. Ooh, we lost 2-1. A rare loss for the Sens. 2-1 in overtime. Overtime still doesn't give a point yet. Overtime losses doesn't. So Philadelphia actually outshot us 31-27. That is extremely rare nowadays that we get outshot, but we did in that game. Mickey Dupont for Philly was the first star. He had a goal. Brian McCabe was a second star with an assist, and Eric Weinrich was a third star with an assist as well. So Philadelphia scored in the first, and then we tied it up in the second. It was Patrick Eliash on the power play from Brian McCabe and Daniel Alfredson. It was tied at 1. And then in overtime, Rod Brennamore played the hero, and Philadelphia actually won this game 2-1. Chris Chelios in Chicago has an ailing ankle, so he's going to be out of the lineup for a couple days. And then Chicago is offering us something. They are offering us Jim Dowd for Magnus Arvidsson, and I am going to say no thank you. I'd rather have Arvidsson for my playoff run than Jim Dowd. Alright, so we are back at home to play the Nashville Predators. So Nashville is struggling this year. They are 22-36-9. We have not played them so far this year, so let's take a look at their lineup. So Ron Tugnut is injured, so he's not going to play. And neither is Martin Straka. That's true, they just traded for Martin Straka not too long ago. Oh, he's been pretty good for them, too. He's been 43 points in 53 games. That's not bad at all. Alright, so Labby, Reinhard Davis, Dan Amius, Brett Clark, Chris O'Sullivan, Anders Eriksson, Kevin Klein, Jimmy Eward, Shea Weber. So Shea Weber has officially entered the universe. Marek Zidlicki, Fee, Bunk, Artnell, Smithson. You know what? It's not that bad of a team. Now, right now, they don't have great goaltending. Especially with Tugnut hurt. But there's a few decent defensemen there. There's a potent attack. It's not that bad of a team. They should have a better record than that. But then again, maybe their goaltending is really sinking them. Alright, so Reinhard Davis is going to be in net for Nashville. And Tim Thomas is going to be in net for us. And it's a tie, 3-3. We couldn't beat them. We outshot them 55-26. Pavel Datsyuk was the first star of that game. He had 2 assists. Brett Clark was the second star with a goal, and Marian Osa was the third star with a goal and an assist. And we had 14,491 people in attendance for that one. There was no scoring in the first period. We opened up the scoring in the second. Alexei Yashin scored on the power play. It was his 35th from Zdeno Chara. Then Sheldon Sorry scored on the power play as well from Pavel Datsyuk and Marian Osa. And then Marian Osa from Pavel Datsyuk. It was 3-0 Sens after 2. But then in the third period, Nashville opened up the machine there. They turned up the machine and they scored 3 unanswered goals. And nobody scored in overtime, obviously, so 3-3 was the final score, a tie against Nashville. Oh, former Ottawa Senator Vitaly Yakmenev is available on waivers, not picking him up. Good game for Josef Stumpel, who had 4 assists in Boston against Atlanta, pretty good. There was no stopping Zygmunt Palffy, who had a hat-trick against St. Louis. Peter Bondras played in 1,000 games for Washington. 36 years old Peter Bondra with 3 stars. He got an assist in that game against Philadelphia. Alright, we are about to play the Capitals. So Washington is 36, 26 and 6. That's good for 3rd in the East. They are 1st in their division. And we are 2-1 against Washington this year. Alright, so it's going to be a long road trip here. We're going to play in Washington, then we're swinging to Western Canada. And then we're going to stop in Minnesota before coming back home for a couple games. Alright, Ryan Miller in net for the Sens, Olaf Kozig in net for Washington. And we won 2-1. So we outshot Washington 46-19 in that game. Olaf Kozig was the first star of the game. He had 44 saves. Boyd Gordon was the second star with a goal, and Zdeno Chara was the third star with 2 assists. So Washington took the lead in the first, so it was 1-0 Capitals after 1. Then in the second period, Joe Thornton scored from Zdeno Chara, tied the game at 1, and then Marian Osa scored his 25th from Zdeno Chara and Patrick Elias. It was 2-1 Sens at that point, and that score would hold until the end of the game, 2-1. Right, today is the trade deadline, so we might see some trades. Right, and we are playing in Calgary in a couple days. Yves Sarrault, Darius Kasparaitis, and Jean-François Labbé are available. Kasparaitis. Do I want to pick up Darius Kasparaitis? What's his contract like? Contract experience. Okay, so his contract runs out this year. I'm gonna try to pick him up. I might not get him, but I'm gonna put a claim on him regardless. Could be useful to have him in the lineup if I have injuries or something like that. Alright, and there's been 2 trades. Montreal and Detroit made a trade. So Brian Pothier and Mark Flood are going to the Red Wings for Marty Turco and Ryan Barnes. Wow. So Montreal is preparing the after Patrick Roy, I believe, because they now got Marty Turco. Interesting trade. Right, and then Buffalo and Columbus also made a trade. So Eric Bogrenicki and Mark Gregg are going to Columbus for Steve Carrier and Steven Gorton. I think Columbus probably got the upper hand there. Well, Steve Carrier is a 2-star player. And he's been putting together decent seasons. Maybe. Oh, we did pick him up. Alright, so we do have Darius Kasparaitis now. Alright, so... should I send on Chris Phillips? Chris Phillips is struggling. He's not developing. I'm gonna send him down. I'm sending Chris Phillips down. Alright, so we are about to play the Flames. Calgary is, wow, is really struggling. They are 18, 40, and 11. We are 1-0 against the Flames this year. A 3-2 win at home. We're going to Ryan Miller. They are going to Levante Super. And we won 3-0. We outshot the Flames 46-10 in that game. Brian McCabe was the first star. He had a goal and an assist. Joe Thornton was a second star with a goal. And Matt Cullen was a third star with an assist. So there was a lot of penalties in the first period. It was a pretty heated contest. Then in the second period, we have Brian McCabe, who opened up the scoring from Mike Sillinger and Matt Cullen. Then Daniel Alfredson scored his 25th on the power play from Alexei Yashin. It was 2-0 after 2. Then finally in the third, Joe Thornton scored his 15th from Marian Osa and Brian McCabe. 3-0 Suns, the final score. Alright, so Radoslav Heckel and Juha Helonen are both available. I'm not going to pick them up. Nick Lidstrom has played in 1,000 games in the NHL, and he celebrated with 2 assists against Columbus. 33 years old, Nicholas Lidstrom, 5-star player. Mark Savard in Columbus is back from suspension. Right. Oh, Peter Forsberg is back from suspension in Colorado. And we are about to play in Vancouver. Vancouver is also struggling. They are 25, 39, and 7. And we are 1-0 against Vancouver. We won 41 back at home. Alright, so Ryan Miller in net for us. Dan Blackburn is actually going to play his first game of the season, apparently. He's going to play for Vancouver. And we won 3-1. We outshot the Canucks 55-21. Alexei Yashin was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. RJ Umberger was the second star with an assist. And Pavel Datsyuk was the third star with a goal. So we open up the scoring in the first. Pavel Datsyuk scored from Alexei Yashin and Zdeno Chara. And then Vancouver tied the game at 1 before the end of the period. So after 1, it was 1-1. And then we scored 2 goals in the second period. Jason Spezza scored from Brian McCabe, and then Alexei Yashin from Patrick Elias and Joe Thornton. 3-1 was the final score. Alright, Eric Kearns is available. I'm not going to pick him up. I already picked up Darius Kasparidis. I'm good. Alright, and now we are in Edmonton to play against the Oilers. So the Oilers are really good this year. They are 44-20-7. Last I checked, they were first in the West. We have tied the Oilers at home earlier this season. It was a 1-1 tie. And we're going back to Tim Thomas. They are going with Ed Belfour. That's true, they had made that trade. And we won 4-3, so pretty tight game against the Oilers again, although not in shots. We outshot them 44-11. Patrick Elias was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Jason Harnett was the second star with a goal and an assist, and Nicholas Avlid was the third star with 2 assists. So Edmonton opened up the scoring in the first, then we tied it up with Marianosa scoring from Avlid and Spezza. Then Edmonton scored again. It was 2-1 Edmonton after 1. Then we scored twice in the second. Michael Ryder from Zdeno Chara and Nicholas Avlid. Then Marian Osa from Patrick Elias and Zdeno Chara. It was 3-2. But with 27 seconds left in the second, Miroslav Shatan tied the game at 3. Then in the third period, with 2:31 to go, Brian McCabe scored on the power play from Alexei Yashin and Patrick Elias. That was the game winner. Pascal Dupuis was in the sin bin for that one. So he might be feeling bad about himself. And we are about to play in Minnesota. Alright, so the Wild is struggling. They are not very good. They are 19-39-13. We have not played the Wild so far this year, so let's take a look at their lineup. Right, so they have Zdeněk Kutlak that's hurt, and Nick Schultz. So those two are not going to be playing. So 2 D-men down there, and then Jason Smith is hurt. He may or may not play that game. Right, so they have Patrick Lelim and José Theodore in net. That's fine. That's pretty good, actually. Ragnarsson, Radji Sekarash, Hutchinson, Alco, Jason Smith, and Jason York. That's OKD. Agman Greer, Marshall Arneson, Prospol, Bulish, Randrury, Comrie, Perpich, Alexander Daigle, still in the league. Eric Dazé, Marian Gaborik, and Pierre-Marc Bouchard. Okay. It's average for a team. Their good young players have not done getting better. Oh god, Daigle is struggling. Alright. But he loves to score against us. So we'll see if that happens here. So we're going to go with Ryan Miller in net. José Theodore in net for Minnesota. And we won 3-1. Alright, so we outshot the Wild 53-8. Pavel Datsyuk was the first star, he had an assist. Marian Gaborik was the second star with an assist as well. And Joe Thornton was the third star with a goal. Marian Osa opened up the scoring in the first. It was on the power play from Patrick Elias and Brian McCabe. And then in the second, Minnesota tied the game, but we scored twice more, with Joe Thornton scoring assisted by Pavel Datsyuk, and then Patrick Elias is 25th on the power play from Alexei Yashin. 3-1 the final score, because nobody scored in the third. And And with that assist in that game, it was Alexei Yashin's 500 assist in his career. So 30-year-old Alexei Yashin, 3-star player. So, and he's having one heck of a season too. Igor Korolev is available, not picking him up. Strong night for Teppo Numminen in Phoenix. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against Anaheim. Chris Kunitz is back from suspension in Anaheim. Alright, and we are about to face the Avalanche, who are having a pretty good season as well. They are 43, 20, and 10. So it's going to be the first matchup against them this season. So we're going to take a look at their lineup. Johan Edberg and Chris Allen are both hurt, so those two are not playing this game. Alright, so Peter Budaj and Mike Morrison in net, Roman Hammerlich, Brendan Witt, Lawrence Nichol, Bob Bugner, Adam Foote, and Michael Sikora. That's not that great of a D. Eduk, Tanguay, Verbata, Paulson, Jochen Hecht, Ramsey Abid, Riku Hall, Peter Forsberg, Joe Sakic, Malhotra, Nolan Sundin, Parrish, Mark Mowers, and Samuelson. So great forwards, but the D's a little shaky. Hopefully we can take advantage of that with our speed. Mike Morrison in net for Colorado. We are going to Ryan Miller. And it's a tie, 2-2. We couldn't beat the Avalanche. We outshot them 35-26. Alexei Yashin was the first star. He had a goal and an assist. Owen Nolan was the second star with a goal. And Patrick Elias was the third star with a goal and an assist as well. We had 14,506 people in attendance for that game. Right, we scored both of our goals in the first period. Patrick Elias scored on the power play from Alexei Yashin and Jason Spezza. Then Alexei Yashin scored on the power play as well from Patrick Elias and Daniel Alfredson. It was 2-0 Sens after 1. Then in the second period, Owen Nolan scored, made it 2-1. Then Mark Mowers scored in the third, tied it at 2. Nobody scored in overtime. So each team gets a point. Oh, Stephen Alco is available, not picking him up. Ethan Morrow in Chicago is suspended. He's going to miss 4 games. Memorable game for Miroslav Shatan, who had a goal and 4 assists against Nashville. Wow, that's a pretty good game. There was no stopping Brian Wilsey, who had 3 goals and an assist in that same game. Alright, we are about to play against Carolina. The Hurricanes are 30, 35, and 9. That's good for 10th in the East. And we are 2-0, and we did lose in overtime against Carolina. So, 2 wins and a loss against the Hurricanes. And they're going to go to Steve Valiquette in net. We are going to Ryan Miller. And we won 2-1 in overtime. We outshot them 40-22. Patrick Elias was the first star. He had a goal. Steve Valiquette, despite the loss, was the second star because he had 38 saves. And Mike Leclerc was the third star with a goal. 16,835 people in attendance for that one. So Carolina actually scored first in the first period, almost at the midway mark of the first. It was 1-0 Hurricanes after 1. Then Alexei Yashin scored in the second period from Pavel Datsyuk and Darius Kasparaitis. It was tied at 1 after 2. And then in overtime, Patrick Elias played the hero from Daniel Alfredson, and 2-1 was the final score. Right, we are about to play in Boston, so there's 5 games left in March, and as you can see if you're looking at the screen, there's only going to be 2 games in April, so for the next episode it's going to be 2 games and then straight in the playoffs. Damon Lenko lights the lamp. He had a hat-trick against the Islanders. That's pretty good. Oh wow, Mike Morrison has been put on waivers. He's played the bulk of the games in Colorado this year. Actually, he has a pretty good season too. It's a cruel, cruel sport. Teemu Selanne has achieved 1,200 points in his career. He had 4 assists against Minnesota. Pretty good. Teppo Numminen lights the lamp. He had another hat-trick. Wow, that's 2 hat-tricks this month for Teppo Numminen, I think. That was a hat-trick earlier too, I believe. 3 goals and an assist for Numminen in that same game against the Wild. Yeah, we already saw what Selanne did in that game. Alright, so we are playing in Boston against the Bruins. The Bruins are really struggling. They are 26-40-9. That's good for 14th in the East. So really not doing too good over there. We are 4-1 against the Bruins this year. We're going to go to Ryan Miller. They are going to Yevgeny Nabokov. And it's a tie, 1-1. Couldn't beat the Bruins on that one. We outshot them 51-16. Josef Stumpel was the first star of the game. He had a goal. Marian Hossa was the second star with a goal as well. And John Michael Lyles was the third star with an assist. Right, so Boston scored first. It was in the second period. And then all the way into the third period, almost at the midway mark there, Marian Hossa scored from Joe Thornton and Pavel Datsyuk. 1-1 the final score. Tony Amante has played in 1,000 games. No points for him in that one against Florida. So Tony Amante had all kinds of milestones this month. That's a pretty good month for him. Lots to celebrate. Right, we are playing our next game in Montreal. Alright, no further punishment for Chris Tamer in LA. So Chris Tamer, defenseman in Los Angeles, not suspended. Actually, the Kings just put him on waivers, and I am not picking him up. Alright, about to play the Habs. Montreal is 43-28-6. That's a pretty good season. That's also good for 4th in the East. We are 4-1 against Montreal this year. So let's see if we can beat them again. Ryan Miller for us. Patrick Roy net for Montreal. And we won 3-0. We outshot Montreal 34-19 in that one. Marian Hossa was the first star. He had a goal and an assist. Joe Thornton was the second star with a goal. And Magnus Arvidsson was the third star with a goal as well. All of the scoring happened in the second period. So we have Marian Hossa scoring his 30th from Patrick Elias and Daniel Alfredson. Then 16 seconds later, Joe Thornton scored from Marian Hossa. And then Magnus Arvidsson scored from Mike Selinger and Matt Cullen. 3-0 the final score. Sasha Gutch has a memorable game. He had 4 assists against the Panthers. Pretty good game. And in that same game, Pavel Dimitra had a hat-trick, 3 goals. Chris Chelios is injured further with Chicago. So still says that it's day-to-day. Eric Weinrich has played in 1,000 games, playing for the Flyers. He had a goal, an assist, sorry, against the Islanders. 37 years old, Eric Weinrich, still a 2.5 star player, not bad. Brad Stewart is not suspended in San Jose. The league says no suspension for Ray Giroux with the Devils and gets to stay in the lineup. And we are about to play the Leafs. So we have allowed a grand total of 2 goals in 4 games against Toronto. We have completely dominated them, so that's pretty good. Toronto is 32, 39, and 7 this year, and they are 10th in the East. We are 4-0 against the Leafs. I know a lot of Sens fans really hate the Leafs, so if we can keep the record clean against them, they're probably gonna like that. Ryan Metter in net for the Sens, and Jean-Sébastien Giguère in net for Toronto. And we won 6-2. We outshot Toronto 53-18. Marian Hossa was the first star of the game. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals. Zdeno Chara was the second star with 4 assists, and Daniel Alfredsson was the third star with a goal and an assist as well. So we open up the scoring in the first. Marian Hossa scored from Daniel Alfredsson and Zdeno Chara. Then Marian Hossa scored on the power play from Adam Denmarsh and Zdeno Chara. And then Toronto scored before the end of the period. It was 2-1 Sens after 1. Then we scored 3 goals in the second. Brian McCabe scored his 15th from Sheldon Souris and Patrick Elias. Then Daniel Alfredsson from Zdeno Chara and Alexei Yashin. Then Yashin from Chara and Spezza, 5-1 after 2. Then in the third, Brian Smolinski scored for Toronto, made it 5-2, but then with 9 minutes to go in the third, Marian Hossa completed his hat-trick from Chris Kelly and Jason Spezza. It was 6-2, and that was the final score. Oh, that's not good. Alright, so Volchenkov got a fracture coracoid in his shoulder. He's gonna miss 5 months. Great night for Chara and Hossa. We were there, we know. Alright, so see, that's why I went and got Kasperitis, just in case something like that happened. So now I can go back. Can go back and get Chris Phillips back up. Alright, Ethan Morrow is back from suspension in Chicago. Yeah, I guess you can have number 6. Not sure why you want that number over number 4, but that's okay. Alright, Jed Ortmeyer is suspended in Phoenix. He's going to miss 2 games. And Peter Sika is going to be suspended in New Jersey. He's going to miss 6 games. Alright, so we have 2 games left in the month of March, and it's a Florida trip, so it starts tonight against our great rivals, the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Tampa Bay has I mean, they don't have a good record, 32-45-2, but they kind of turned things around a little bit. They were a lot worse at the start of the season, so it looks like they've been playing a little bit better lately. We are, however, 3-0 against Tampa Bay this year. Alright, so Ryan Miller in net for the Sens. We are going to be facing Kevin Weeks. And we won 2-1. 44-14, the shots to our advantage. Kevin Weeks was the first star of the game despite losing because he made 42 saves. Serge Aubin was the second star with an assist, and Chris Kelly was the third star with a goal. Alright, so nobody scored in the first. Then in the second period, Damon Lenko scored for Tampa Bay to open up the scoring. Then Joe Thornton scored from Zdeno Chara. It was tied at 1 after 2. And then in the third, Chris Kelly scored the game winner, assisted by Chris Phillips. Ulf Dallin in Buffalo is not suspended. And Rob Blake in LA just played in his 1000th game. No point for him. 34-year-old Rob Blake, still a 3-star player. Alright, Doug Waite has obtained 500 assists with a goal and 2 assists against the Devils. Alright, and we are about to play against the Panthers. The Panthers, the worst team in the East. They are 21-53-5. We are 3-0 against them this year. Perfect record would be nice. Alright, so Ryan Miller in net for us as usual, and John Graham in net for Florida. And we lost 4-3 against the worst team in the East. We outshot them 57-26. Jay Boomister was the first star of the game. He had a goal and 2 assists. Chris Kelly was the second star with a goal, and then Gregory Campbell was the third star with an assist. Chris Kelly opened up the scoring in that game in the first period from Chris Phillips and Tim Gleason. Then Florida scored twice. It was 2-1, Florida after 1. Then Sheldon Surrey tied the game up from Marian Osa and Pavel Datsyuk. But then Florida scored again, made it 3-2. Then Florida scored to make it 4-2 in the third. Daniel Alfredson scored with 9:30 to go from Patrick Eliash and Alexei Yashin, but we were not able to come back and score another goal, so we lost 4-3. Jed Artmeyer is already back from suspension in Phoenix. Andy McDonald has a fractured ankle in Anaheim and he's going to miss 4 months, so season over for sure. Jeff Ulmer with the Rangers is not suspended. Alright, and the player of the month were Nicholas Cronwall in Detroit and Ryan Miller for the Sens. Alright, so looks like every month we at least get one of the awards. That's pretty good. Alright, so there's 2 games left. I am not going to play them today. We're gonna keep the format we've been having. Now, one thing that I want to point out is that if you look at my record, we might be tying the NHL record for fewest losses in a year, in a season. The Montreal Canadiens in real life hold that record. I believe it was in 77, 78. It could have been in 76, 77. One of those seasons, they had only 8 losses the entire season. Now, back then there weren't any ties, so it was you were either winning or losing. I mean, there weren't back then. There wasn't overtime, is what I mean. So, yeah. We might be tying a pretty old record there. That would be pretty cool. With 2 games to go, it's doable. Alright, so we are definitely going to be finishing first in the East. We have 136 points on the season. That's a lot more than the Flyers. Now let's take a look at the standings in the West, see what it looks like. So in the West we have Colorado. Oh, Edmonton have slid a little bit. So Colorado, Detroit, San Jose, Edmonton, Phoenix, St. Louis, LA, and Columbus. Yep. So Anaheim is not going to make the playoffs. I was wondering because of Andy McDonald's injury. I was like, oh, that's going to hurt them for the playoffs. But they're not going to be there. So it doesn't matter. For us, we... yeah, we're either going to face the Hurricanes, the Sabres, or the Rangers in the first round. Alright, let's take a look at our stats. Something tells me that Alexei Yashin is still gonna look pretty good there. Alright, so Yashin has 85 points in 70 games. That's too bad that he missed 10 games. He could have been pretty close to 100 points. So 85 and 70 for Yashin. Eliash has 68 and 77. Alfredson 68 and 80. Datsyuk 59 and 72. Osa 59 and 68. 56 points for Joe Thornton. That's quite a drop from last year. How many did he have? 102, I think? Yeah, 102 points last year. No, that's almost half of that this season. And then our best defenseman is Sheldon Surrey with 51 points in 80 games. And then Shara is pretty good as well with 48 in 79. And then it kind of dwindles down from there. Alright, and in the league, Brett Hull, 54 goals. So another 50-goal season for Brett Hull. Then the best passer is Jaromir Jagr with 58 assists. And Sakic as well, so they both have 58 assists. And the best scorer is Jaromir Jagr. He has 101 points. Alexei Yashin is 4th with 85. Actually tied for 3rd with Selene at 85. Alright. Well, this is pretty much where we are at. Looks like I'm going a little bit faster going through the months now. That type of month in the past would routinely take about an hour, so I don't know if I'm speaking faster or I don't talk as much about random stuff anymore. But that's pretty much where we're at, so I'm going to go ahead and save the game. And as usual, I want to thank you for tuning in, and if you've liked the video, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, share, all of that good stuff. And until I roll this game again, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.